Hey, so nice to meet you. I'd like to discuss my project with you and then let you get back to me about what you're interested in working on. So, my name's Chris. For 20 years, I've been working on the world of FIIR. This is a, um, a transmedia world that I've been working on. Mostly been working kind of unconsciously, just kind of filling in details over time. But I think in the past 5 years, I've really gotten a sense of what the themes are. And in the past year, with AI getting the way it is, I've really started to fill in a lot of blanks. So this is the world of FIIR. It's a sociological fantasy story. I'm most interested in the world itself, but of course, the readers are most interested in characters and plot. So I'm going to go through some of the character and plot with you. You can pause. I'm going to go through this very quickly, and we can talk about it in more detail later. But essentially, the world of FIIR is um, it's meant to dramatize and demonstrate a lot of the sort of the secrets about human history that people aren't aware of. For example, the origins of consciousness and the breakdown of the bicameral mind by I think his name is Janes. His last name is Jynes, I think. And then also them and us and them. It's about the Neanderthal. Crisis with Cro-Magnons and Neanderthals fighting each other. It's sort of an explanation about why Cro-Magnons developed the features that we consider modern humans. It's also an attempt to try to um, well, you'll see. So let me just go through some of the details. So very quickly, background on the world. This is FIIR. This Wildwater Sea is about the size of the Aegean Sea. It used to be an open plain, and it's where the humans, they're called Huvans, where they first developed. Ven were sort of the gorilla kind of people, and the Huvans were the ones who started eating manna fruit. And manna fruit can be boiled into potions, and so all of these giant cities are giant shining towers of alchemical alembics and other devices, and the whole economy runs on heroes entering the Elenaria, which is the chaos plane of nature, and bringing back this golden manna fruit because no one knew how to grow it. So anyway, a long, long time ago, under this sea was a open plain where people started growing manna fruit. They figured out how to cultivate it, and then their society got too advanced, and the other cultures around here, over here are some sentient bug people who rule this area from this secret island here, and over here is there's cat people, and then all of this used to be a bird culture, so there's a lot of old statues of birds, and the old mystic philosophies are all in the bird language and stuff. But anyway, the rest of the world got together and tried to stop humanity from expanding too much, and they opened two plains to the elemental plane of water that flooded this whole area. Many of the people died. There's a lot of ghosts and ancient technology under here. That's why it's called the Wildwater Sea. It's always bubbling over with horrible storms and monsters and stuff. So humans went in several directions. Some of them went into the Elenaria. They became the Elven. They kind of use bug parts. It's kind of like a steampunk culture, except they use bug parts instead of, and they burn gank crystals. And then other humans went north where there were these giant monstrous spiders. And they became the modern Weaver culture. They're called Magisters. They're kind of the ascendant, the new human magical culture. And so our story takes place here. So the Huvans are they're capable of dominating other people's minds. That's kind of what sets them apart. That's why they have a lot of animals in their culture. So dogs were the closest. So I've kind of melded horses and dogs together in a single race called the Wargs and Worven. Ven means human, and so Huven is the magical people. Hu means magical. It refers to the magical Hue, hue of golden energy that is magical people. And then the Worven were half dog, half animal, half dog, half humans. And I'm kind of taking the Nietzschean idea of humanity as divided between animal and God, and I'm putting that in the physical form of these dog people. And so humans are the the Huvans are the angelic magisters, and then the Worven dog people are sort of like what us, like humans, halfway between God and monsters. And then the lower culture, the lower caste is actual mod, like half months. Well, we'll get to that in just a second. So our story follows Kyle. Kyle is a land of these wargs and werewolf kind of people who ran away from the spider people, and so I kind of made this whole world, and then I was actually going to set it up here because I thought that would be more interesting. Then I figured out this is probably the most interesting place. So all of the details I'm going to tell you from now are about Kyle. It's meant to represent America, and America as different than Europe. So this sort of represents Europe, but also it represents modern industrial city society, and Kyle is sort of, well, you'll see, this is kind of my metaphor for America. So let me go through some of the characters here. This, you can pause your screen if you want to read. This is like a the whole culture in Kyle is a questing culture. It's sort of my take on a warrior culture, but in an RPG context. So the whole culture runs on quests. The high quest giver Yimaros empowered Chad Thunderwave. Chad Thunderwave is the high hero of Kyle. His heroism, Chadius Thadwick Thunderwave Runeheart, the fifth Chad Thunderwave. And he is sort of an embodiment of the cultural god, Gordon Yalzer. This isn't something I would tell all the fans right away, but Gordon, of course, you can move the letters around to dragon, and Yalzer is slayer. So all mana to him, got a kicking ass, killing bugs, and laying down some order in these parts. Hey, dickheads, listen the fuck up. We got some bugs, think they can just infest this place. What do we think about infestations? Are we just going to let the gentle forest folk get predated on? Fuck no, what are we going to do? Say it with me, we're going to slay some fucking bugs. So it's kind of like Stormship Troopers, because to me, I think bugs are the most horrifying thing for modern people. We don't really have a ton of experience with rats and lizards anymore, so I think the scariest thing are bugs. So Gordon Yalzer is kind of like Santa Claus. He's a pattern of behavior, and he may or may not have been an actual human a long time ago, but now he's basically the model for modern heroes. Chad Thunderwave is actually a person, and it turns out he has a much softer side. He's actually the fifth in his line, and he's in his private life, he's more of a poet than a warrior, but he's the king of Kyle, and he has all of these warg knights. These wargs are the knights, and the warven are the half-human dogs. They're sort of the domesticated version of these wargs. So I'm just kind of going randomly all over the place. Gordon now is actually, the weavers have something called the mana web, so all of their magical spider webs have created basically the internet, where people who are dead, they're the gold. So there's a lot of things I'm throwing around. Magical people develop gold in their minds, it's sort of a magnetic force power. It's kind of where the Jedi power comes from, and it can be used as a battery for mana tech, which is magical items. So Gordon is sort of a spirit inherent in the minds of all humans, and as their gold has been collected into these mana tech devices that are connected to the mana web, his spirit has kind of been resurrected. So this is sort of like a Warhammer 4K version of the Emperor. So Gordon Yalzer, the epic story arc will be that reawakening Gordon and giving him sight again, bringing back his sight, because the Weavers are preventing him from seeing reality, because they kind of they censor the memories that are allowed to go into the AI central processing unit. And this is the reason I'm so excited about AI, because for 20 years I've been preparing for this idea of an AI, and I'm really excited now it's kind of becoming real. This is a sense of scale. So Ven are humans, and Ven are not magical. So there's actually a new category of people called human. Mon are monster animals. So these are anthropomorphic animals, and Warven are the highest caste. They're like a special caste of Mon. And the dogs are trusted much more than these other animals. So these dogs become guild masters. You have to be a Warven to be a guild master. And our story follows a character who becomes a guild master. There's an underground group of magical Mon called humans. And the Church of Calfor is the Church of the Good Dog, who brings back gold. Gordon's Retrievers, Gordon Yalzer, Gordon's Retrievers are golden retrievers, essentially, who bring back the Gord's gold. Gold is any any mind gold from any magical item. They're supposed to bring it back, and of course there's some who hoard it, and they become quote-unquote dragons. If you keep Gord's gold, then people are allowed to kill you. It goes PvP, essentially. So this is kind of the society notes. So Albina Venusia is an important character, and her escape kind of sets off the background plot for the immediate story. So Kyle City is one of these alembic cities. So an alembic, of course, is a collection of alchemical tools that are used to brew alchemical potions. So all of these areas are labyrinthine mana fruit fields. So mana fruit requires certain conditions, and so the Yowzers, the Yowzers are the small kings. So there are 5 Yowzers. So Chad Thunderwave is in the palace city of Kyle City, and then there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 smaller Yowzers. They're like the local kings, and our story takes place on Muddy Acres. Our main character is in this Yowzerdom, is what they're little called. And Hunter's Rest is Chad Thunderwave's private palatial estate. But then the Yowzer is tasked with providing security for these farmers who keep the bugs, the magical gank bugs, out of their fields. So these are kind of the daily quests to harvest mana fruit and keep the bugs down. So this is the questing realm. The city, land of Kyle would sort of be like an Italian country, like Tuscany, or I don't know, almost maybe Bavaria, maybe something like Bavaria. So this whole area is Bavaria, and then you got these tiny kingdoms. Well, of course, if you're going to have mana fruit, you have to have someone to cut grafts of things off. And Albina Venusia kind of looks like this. She's a giant dryad, except in her hair are her daughters, her baby girls, who are cut out of her head and put into these fields to grow mana fruit. Well, she got sick of that, and of course there are plenty of people who want to weaken the Worven and stuff to stop. They really like to bottle humans up in the subcontinent of FIIR. They want to keep them out of Cathantor. So the Elven and the Bug people got together to help Albina Venusia escape. And she escaped through a very rare teleportal event that they knew was coming. The Elven are good at predicting these teleportal events. So they took her to a place called Hidden Hill, which is actually a very ancient, from that ancient culture under the Wildwater Sea. There's these old bunkers that have, well, we'll talk about it later. But essentially, she's deep in this Elenario zone. And it's not just woods. This is actually a shifting zone that you can't just walk through. You have to. It's like a shifting sea. It's like being in an alternate dimension. It's really hard to get there. But there's this little trail that if you know what you're doing, you can actually get there reliably. And right here is this ancient bunker where she's hiding, and the Elven are stealing gold, and they're putting it in a giant chamber. And so Albina Venusia is hiding underground, and the benefits of her mana fruit are gone. This is actually benefiting the upper class because now there's no more potions. So the only way that you can do magic is if you have ancestral mind gold, like necklaces and earrings and stuff. So the rich people, the ancient people, are doing really well because they still have manic energy from these endless gold things. It's sort of like uranium. It generates an endless supply of manic energy. Burbank is one of the Yowzers. These Yowzers are given these giant mech suits, and they have personalities kind of like wrestlers. So his mech suit is actually called Chad Thunderwave, even though it's not the person Chad Thunderwave, it's just a mech suit called Chad Thunderwave. And there's a secret about these Yowzers. They're actually Worven, and they have necklaces that make them look human, but secretly, all of them, each of them thinks they are the only Worven who's ever been given the chance to be a Yowzer, and that's actually how Chad Thunderwave keeps control, because he says, you know, if you don't do what I say, I'm going to reveal that you're actually a Worven and you're going to lose your place. And that becomes critical in the climax when they all realize that they're all dogs and they have something in common. Alden is the main character, so I have these characters sort of like a mood board. It's just, I think these are kind of the things that the character has. Alden is the first part of the Freudian trilogy, Freudian trio trope. I'm trying to employ as many tropes as possible. Freudian trio is a lot like the Kirk. if you've seen Star Trek, this is the Freudian trio. So he's the id, he's the passion of humanity, he is the disembodied superego, the logical guy, and then Kirk mediates between those two. So Alden is, he gets a horn, he becomes human, and he actually is supposed to bring his horn to the Church of Calfor, and they're going to cut it out. He's going to donate his horn, and he's going to, his guild will get a great benefit, but he makes the decision, as other people talk to him, to keep his horn and try to be a magical person. And he's the first human to be allowed to do that, and it's a big social shift, and it causes a big crisis. So that's Alden. Brotlin is sort of like Chewbacca or Worf, excuse me. He's really big guy. He's Alden's younger brother. Alden is a little bit like Harry Potter, because he's brought up in a family that's not his. But they think that they're half-brothers, that Alden looks much more human than Brotlin. Brotlin looks a lot more like a warg. And it turns, in the beginning, they're searching for their father who's been lost, and it turns out they discover that their father it's not their father. Alden has a different father. Alden's father turns out to be Burbank later. So Brotlin is he's kind of the sense of smell. He is the mount. Alden rides him around, and kind of like this a little bit. Also, Brotlin is very loyal to the humans. So he always counsels Alden to do what the quest says exactly, follow the quest exactly. Then the other one is Redden. Redden is a fox. He is human, and he kept his horn and ran away. They tried to take it from him, but he escaped. And he finds Alden when Alden first manifests his magical power, and Redden convinces him to keep his magical abilities. And so Brotlin and Redden really don't like each other in the beginning. They have to learn to work together. But Redden, he's all about intuition. He can shapeshift. He's learned to use magical and control Gank. Gank is physical matter. So he is the other part of the Freudian trio. He's counseling Alden to take power for himself and to not trust the humans. And Alden always has to mediate in every situation between those two. There's other characters. Cincy is one of the characters. I really need to flesh these out, but essentially I made a 5-man band of characters. Gordon Jubilee, well, yeah, you can see there's a lot of different characters. Yeah, I don't want to overload you with too many things. That's kind of the core. I've got a lot of these. I don't think we need to go through every one of them. Swain is another major character. He starts out as a really bookish, believer in the Empire of Order. He's one of the Weaver priests who comes undercover to infiltrate Kael and find out where Albania Venusia fled, and try to find out this human underground, this resistance group. Scorpius is this resistance group. He's trying to infiltrate and find out where they are, because in the beginning, Scorpius Terror Network resets the mana web, which resets his AI wife and makes him angry. But then as he explores Kael, he learns about humans and why. So the Weavers say that only humans are truly magical. Only Mon are just manic. They don't have the ability to use magical energy in a transformative, positive way. And of course, over the course of the story, Alden proves that wrong, and Swain actually leaves and becomes like the Dread Pirate Roberts, kind of. And Ploymark is in the Empire of Order. He is Swain's patriarch, kind of patron. He's in the magisterium. He's one of the high levels, sort of like Emperor Xi, I guess. But in the beginning of the story, he's working his way up through the inner circle to become the most powerful person in the magisterium. So those are the main ideas there. I would like to share just a couple other things. One of the most important things to me is the religious symbolism. So this is the symbol of Gordon Yowzer. So I think I showed you the one where Gordon Yowzer was on the horns. Let me actually get that one out real quick. I've got a whole lot of art. Like for 20 years I've been gathering stuff from the internet, and luckily now we can... Oh, I need religious symbols, sorry. Now we can use AI art generator to combine images and stuff, and I've started getting new images and stuff. So this is Gordon Yowzer, the Infinite Warrior. He is on the horns of Masha. So this lotus represents gank or physical matter, or more esoterically, it just represents reality, or you could even call it shit. And it's just like what is really going on. The horns, of course, are the two poles, good and evil, or just taking life by the horns. And Gordon Yowzer is... So what happened was when humans first started taking potions and doing mana fruit stuff, they generated this static electricity of manic power that they didn't always know how to what to do with, and it would manifest as like a lightning dragon, and to get rid of it, it would start like killing people, and the only way to get rid of it would be to jump on the horns, and you would be annihilated. Your mind gold would be zapped, and your spirit would disappear forever. So it was a major sacrifice to jump on the horns of Masha and be destroyed. But then one day, this may be a myth or it may be reality, but someone, Gordon Yowzer, jumped on the horns of Masha and didn't die. And he's like the Santa Claus or even the Jesus figure. He jumped on the horns of Masha and started like shooting magic all over the place. And that's the myth about where all the crazy stuff comes from. Like, oh, those floating mountains and the blue people underground and the crystal caverns and the floating waterfalls. All of that comes from this random chaotic energy that Gordon Yowzer was doing his best to shoot around everywhere and help people with. Well, finally, Gordon Yowzer realized that he was causing a lot of problems together with the magic, and he flew away to another star, and there he's learning how to use Masha is the dragon of chaos, M-A-T-T-I. It's a mix-up of Tiamat, but people say Masha like M-A-S-H-A, Masha. So he flew Masha away to another star, and he's building a world for us on that star, and someday he'll come back, and we need to be ready for him. Especially the wargs, the Warvins say, you know, the master's coming back, we have to keep the house in order, we're going to guard the place till he comes back. And in the course of the story, Alden finally realizes that that's a metaphor and decides to take on that role for the other Warven who believe it, and he kind of makes himself like the second coming of Christ, and then of course the Weavers say he's the Antichrist, and then there's a teleportation network. It's a sort of an ongoing mystery plot about how this teleportation network works, and they're able to teleport around the world and possibly to other stars, and then it turns out in the end that all of it was actually true, that there was a real Gordon Yowzer who really did teleport to another star, and when this crisis with the water happened, he was unable to come back, and the Weavers have been trying to stop him because they're bribed by the other cultures of FIIR. They just want to keep humanity at a low level of development. And so the final, maybe the final season or the final book is Alden reconnecting this teleportation network and allowing Gordon Yowzer to come back, and he's the good dog of the Emperor Gordon, and that's his ultimate epic destiny. So I think that was longer than I expected, but you know, I've been trying to say all of this in a connected way for 20 years, and I'm getting better at it. So what can you do? So I need someone who's familiar with religious symbols and with the state of the world today, and I'd like to get your input on what you'd like to know more about, ideas for the story. I can go through the story more once you know the general project idea. I'd like you to let me know what you think you can do. I'm also going to let you have some samples of my writing and stuff. So this is a project that I think could be almost like open source. I think Transmedia World is the new religion, and I think we're coming to a point where there will be a transmedia world that becomes like a new religion. And we need a religion in the world that allows people from all around the world to codify positive masculinity. And that's really what this is about. So this is Confucian plus warrior culture, a little bit of Islam, a lot of Christianity, and kind of, to me, the elven culture is a Confucian culture. So the new culture that comes out in the course of this story is Alden, which is sort of the American frontier warrior guy, with the elven, who are the Confucian stability-based society. And yeah, so let me know what you think. Let me know how you would like to participate. And I'm glad to have you on board. As far as money goes, when this becomes profitable, I'm going to share the money with people. I think this could be a Netflix series, but I don't know politically if it's amenable, if they would be amenable to this message. It could also just be a bunch of short TikTok videos. It could be maybe even in the style of a fan wiki. Like we could just have little articles and stuff. It'd make a great video game. That I've designed the story to feed into a video game. So season 1 would be Alden getting his powers and learning about them, and season 2 would be building a coalition to invade the capital. So yeah, I'm going to stop there for now because I could talk forever, but I'm happy to have you interested, and I'd like to know what you'd like to do, and if you have any questions, I'd sure like to hear them. So thank you very much. We'll be in touch.